Freedom. Freedom is the title I gave to my blog because it's something that I searched for a long time, and something that I didn't know, and something that I read about, and something that I heard about, but something that I never experienced or really understood. And the reason I titled it Freedom is because my life was far from freedom. I was trapped within an internal war against myself. I wore so many masks to the world, my mask of strength, my mask of pride, my mask of denial, my mask of happiness. I could walk around smiling with a smile on my face and kind of just be in denial that I was in turmoil inside, in denial of the situation that I was in. And from a young age, I experienced the loss of a loved one, and learning about death from a very early age was really hard. I was 10 years old, and I kind of developed a coping mechanism of being numb, because I remember being at the funeral and not even being able to cry because it didn't feel like a reality, it didn't feel real. And that's what I learned throughout my life, is to feel numb through traumatic situations. And I was able to cope with big things, and eventually it was all the small things that got to me and the big things that built up, and that internal war inside of myself, that I ended up with a disorder called post-traumatic stress disorder, which is, it was awful. I didn't know what was wrong with me because I was always able to cope. I was always able to handle responsibilities. And when I suffered post-traumatic stress disorder, it frightened me, because one day I felt like I was literally going to die. I felt like I was being suffocated. I got pins and needles in my face and my hands and my feet, and I had no idea what was wrong with me at all. And I went to my doctor and I said, please help me, and she wanted to prescribe me medication, and I said I don't want to take medication. I didn't like medication at that time. And she said, well, I don't know how to help you, go for counseling. And when I went for counseling, the counselor that I had at the time said, right, well, I want you to draw a map of the area of the person that you saw and the events that took place in those certain areas. And it really triggered something inside of me that made me feel this terror. And I suddenly just became afraid of everything. I was too terrified to leave my home. I was terrified that I was dying. I was terrified of being alone. I was just in full terror, and when that terror struck, I couldn't move. It wasn't a fear that drove me to change. It was a fear that stunted my growth completely. And it was a fear I didn't understand, and it was a fear everyone else didn't know how to cope with either, because no one knew what was going on with me, because I always coped. And suddenly now I was acting very strange by not being able to do simple things, because I was too terrified, not being able to be alone. And I conquered that. I conquered post-traumatic stress disorder. I started learning about it and learning what it was, and learning that when you create fearful thoughts in your mind, adrenaline pumps in your body, and that's what causes those physical reactions of pins and needles. And that's what causes the reactions of more fear, because you think you're dying or going to have a stroke. And it causes more reactions because you feel terror of that, and more adrenaline gets secreted into your system. And I found this really good book, and unfortunately it's packed away in a box in the country I used to live in. And it was a book that I was walking one day and I happened to just come across it, and it just had a big title on it, Fear. And it was about a man who suffered post-traumatic stress disorder, and his son actually committed suicide because he was ashamed of it. And I was ashamed of it too, to begin with. I was ashamed because I was known as a strong person, a person of strength, a person who coped, a person who got through things. And suddenly I had this burden, this disorder, and it made me feel like, how was I ever going to actually live life like normally again? In my mind I thought, am I going to be this way forever? And the more I read about it and the more I learned about it, the more I grasped the concept of it. And then I started doing simple things, like doing something that I feared every day, whether it was driving or walking to my gate, or walking out of my gate, or walking to a neighbor, or going into a public environment. I started feeling that fear, and the more I felt the fear, the less it got. And that gave me a sense of achievement, because it was something, one of the many things that I got through in my life, post-traumatic stress disorder, and it was a process and it took time. It took 2 years to do it. And then one day it was suddenly lifted from me, because the day I started sharing about it is the day that I started feeling this release and this burden being lifted from my entire being, that it was okay, and I was okay, and at least I was aware of what was going on and what was happening. So Freedom is a blog that I hope will help give others hope, and there are lots of things that I have to share and speak on, and things that I've got through, because I've been there, and I've experienced it, and I know, and if I can reach people and give them hope, and if I can do it, anyone can. And my story is a long story, but your story is a long story too, and we each have our own stories. And sometimes people judge people because things may seem so minute to them, but to them it's big, and big things to other people seem small to others. But I think our level of suffering and pain is exactly the same no matter what the situation. And for me, I think it's that sharing in that belief of knowing that you can actually get through it and experience hope. I experienced freedom recently. I left everything that was familiar to me. I packed my bags and I moved to another country. And I sat the other day in awe of everything around me, the beauty around me, thinking back to all these times, these painful moments in my life and these traumatic situations, and I felt free. And it was the first time I ever felt free. I can walk in a city alone and not be afraid anymore. I can live on my own and not be afraid anymore. I can be on my own and not be afraid anymore. And I think because you experience freedom, it doesn't mean the suffering doesn't go away, because pain is necessary for change. When you feel that discomfort, it's when it leads you to change. It leads you to grow. It kind of forces you. Well, that's how it worked for me. It forced me to change, and it forced me to grow. And I think honesty, like being honest with yourself, I had to be honest with myself at where I was at in my life and why I experienced the things that I experienced. And it was almost as if I woke up one day and thought, I don't want to feel this way anymore. And realizing that I had a choice, and I can choose every day how I want to make it. I can choose it to be happy. I can choose it to be sad. I can choose to reflect back on my life experiences as traumatic, awful, depressing, sad, regret. Or I can look back at my life experiences and say, it's because of those that they've given me freedom and direction in my life today. Life is a learning lesson. It's been such a learning curve to me, and there are many things that you can get through. And when you get to that stage, that mental stage, and you believe in yourself, is the time that your life changes. My life has changed beyond my wildest dreams. And if someone had said to me a couple of years ago, this is where you will be a couple of years from now, I would have said, no, you've definitely got the wrong person. That's not me. That's not my life. That's not within me. And I felt like I'd lost myself, but it was in losing myself that I found myself. And I think life is about continuously trying to find yourself, and you lose yourself again and you find yourself again. But I lost myself in a big way, and I found myself again, and now I look in the mirror and I see life. I see my soul now. I look in the mirror and I see that my eyes are the window to my soul, and my soul is at peace, and my soul can be at peace amidst the storm. And there are many storms that we have to weather in life, but it's in those storms, and when we get through them and when we weather them, we reflect back and think, wow, I can't believe I actually got through this. And to give yourself a little pat on the back and know that nothing lasts forever. Everything passes. Feelings of pain pass. Feelings of suffering pass. Post-traumatic stress disorder, it's relieved. It doesn't go, but you have a sense of awareness about it, and the more you get to know yourself, the more aware you are of who you are. And I think that's what I found helped me on my journey, in this journey to life, because I realized we're all in it together, and life is to be enjoyed, not endured, and to embrace every moment with it, and embrace every moment of it, and look around you and see the beauty and the awe of it all, because it's there. And no matter what place you're in, no matter what situation you're in, there is always hope. And my fear became my faith, and my weakness became my strength, and unveiling my masks gave me that awareness to be vulnerable and share my experiences. And through sharing my experiences, I was able to help others that related to my experiences, and found out there were so many people that actually go through like so many similar things that you go through. And it's amazing, because sometimes you feel so alone, and you're not alone, because there's so many people going through exactly the same things as you. I truly hope this blog and this post can be helpful to people, that it can give hope and help you experience the freedom that I've experienced. It's not the freedom I've read about. It's not the freedom I studied. It's not the freedom I went on courses on to find. It's a freedom within myself and within my entire being. And it's a beautiful freedom, because it's the freedom to finally be me and not worry really about the world as much, and what the world thinks of me, because in life we can't please everyone. Not everyone's going to like us, but to try our best to be the best that we can be, and to have that humility. And I heard a really good saying once, that humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. And the more I shared my experiences and tried to help others that were going through the same thing, the more I grew as a person and learned more about myself. And the more that I looked at myself and worked on myself honestly, is when I gained that freedom. And it's an ongoing process. So to anyone out there, there's always hope. Life is beautiful. I am in awe of it now. I am in awe of simple things, like standing in the rain on the bridge, looking at the water in a different country, lost in a city, always getting lost. And a couple of years ago, getting lost, I would have probably died or shriveled up. I wouldn't have known what to do. And now I can get lost in a city on my own and experience the awe of life. Rain, sunshine, leaves dropping from trees, the sea, sunsets, sunrises, the beauty of everything around me, and appreciate it all with gratitude. So thank you. Thank you to everyone in the world for your experiences, because it's all our experiences that link us together and link us together in this life. And we all search for peace and happiness. And that's the common denominator I think all of us have. So I wish everyone out there peace and happiness, and to remember that there is always hope. We don't know what's at the back of that tapestry. we have no idea what is at the back of that tapestry. So I wish hope and love and peace and freedom to everyone out there.